Welcome back, and in this segment we will be talking about the trip of the Holy Family to Egypt. And according to our Coptic Church's tradition that Jesus Christ came to Egypt on the 1st of June. He came at the age of almost 6 months, and we start celebrating the trip of the Holy Family to Egypt with the beginning of the year, taking the chance with the birth of Jesus Christ and celebrating Christmas to also celebrate his arrival to Egypt when he and the Holy Virgin and Joseph the Carpenter came, taking refuge from Herod at that time. And he spent almost around 3.5 years in Egypt, where he visited various sites in the country, and many miracles occurred. We will be learning more about this miraculous trip in Egypt. And joined in the studio with us right now is Egyptologist as well as historian, Mr. Ahmed Nour Eddin, will tell us more about it. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Ahmed. And of course, it was one of the important trips, the refuge that the Holy Family take here to Egypt. But why they chose Egypt to come to?
Why is it? First of all, Happy New Year for all of us, and we hope that this year will be a year of peace for all the world. The trip of the Holy Family is one of the important events that we have here in Egypt, but not the unique one, because we have the journey or also the trip of Prophet Abraham to Egypt, and he married with Hagar. And after that we have also Prophet Joseph and Jacob, his father Prophet Jacob. We have after that Moses, who born here in Egypt, and the famous story with the Pharaoh, and then the famous journey, the famous trip of the Holy Family. Holy Family, it means Jesus, Virgin Mary, and Joseph. So they choose Egypt because this is order of God to protect the Christianity for all the world, because this Egypt was reason to protect the Holy Family and to protect the Christianity for all the world. So it was an order of God to come from Bethlehem to Egypt and stayed here about 3 months or three exactly.
3 years, yes. 3.5 years?
Yeah, and in some ancient 3, but we have a famous papyrus in Cologne in Germany from the 4th century, mentions that they stayed 3 years and 11 months, almost 4 years. So this is a famous one. So when they came from Bethlehem to Egypt, also they saved the Christian religion, and it was order of God.
Now, how arduous or hard was that trip, especially that at that time they only had either to walk or, according to the tradition, that they used the donkey? Is that true?
It's true, because they represented that, and they mentioned that also in the Bible. So they suffered lots and lots when they came from Bethlehem till Wadi al-Muharrak or Deir al-Muharrak in Asyut, and they returned again. It is more than 2,000 kilometers. So they were suffering, and some of this time they spent in summer, others spent in winter.
So we have the map. Would you like to comment on the map as well, as you're talking about the areas they visited?
Because they started from the beginning. When they started from Bethlehem, they came to first to Rafah, and after that Al Arish, and then they also came to Al Farma, that it was a famous trade city in that time also. And in each place that they passed, they left a church, a famous, or after that they constructed a church in each place of the Holy Family. So the first trip was through Sinai, and also they chose another route, because we have the famous route of God Horus, and the other routes that in ancient Egypt they used to pass from there. But the Holy Family chose another place, because King Herodes also was behind them, and he sent a soldier behind them to kill Jesus. So they chose another, and they changed their way also. And you can imagine that they did that with only Joseph, the child, Jesus, and Virgin Mary, and with the donkey. But the donkey is not new also, because we have the same thing for Moses when returned again to Egypt from Midian. He carried his wife, Sephora, with the two sons also from Midian to Egypt, and they used the donkey. So they came from Rafah to Al-Arish and Al-Farma, and then they reached to this area of Tel Basta. This is ancient site, also the ancient place. And then there were many miracles also in this area, because everywhere that they passed, all the statue or the huge statues that they worshipped in that time were damaged. So also they had enemies, because this is a religion of the people in that time before this trip of the Holy Family. And after Tel Basta, they started their journey also in Delta. So when they passed in Delta, there are many sites. First, they reached to this Minyat Samanud. And nowadays, we have also a famous church in this area, because in this area also they had no food. So Virgin Mary started to prepare some bread, and they had no more bread, but it was enough for all the people who came to this place. And also the church was a measure that the Virgin Mary used to prepare the bread. Till nowadays, the people are going there to use also, or to fill it with oil, and then to use it as medication.
Okay, sir, let's have a look back about why they left their place in the first place, and why they were followed by King Herodes.
The first, it was Joseph had seen in his dream that Herodes, the king, will kill the child, because they told him that we know the story that Jesus will finish his reign, and he will be the God, and he will be, and then he decided to kill him. So God sent for Joseph first in his dream that he must escape to Egypt to save the child, to save Jesus. So he saw in his dream that Herodes will kill Jesus, so he decided to come to Egypt, and they started their journey, and they reached Egypt maybe the 24th of Bashans. This is one of the Coptic months that we are celebrating till nowadays, in the first day of June, when the Holy Family started their journey to Egypt. When they came first from, like we said, from Rafah to Al-Arish, Al-Farma, to Tel Basta, and then they continued to Delta. And we have many stories in Delta, in Sakha, in Wadi al-Natron, Sakha in Kafr al-Sheikh, Wadi al-Natron in Al-Buhaira, till they returned again to this area of Cairo.
Yes, I'd like to ask you about Al-Muharraq, because we have it on air. So would you tell us more about it?
Wadi al-Muharraq was the last site, the last place that they reached in their trip. Wadi al-Muharraq in Asyut. To reach, I would like to return, because we have many.
Yeah, there are so many areas, but it's just because they have it on air, so that's why we skip to it, but we return back to the rest.
They call al-Muharraq the second Beit Lahm, because they stayed in Wadi al-Muharraq 190 days. It is 6 months and 10 days in Wadi al-Muharraq. It was the last point, the last place that they reached in Asyut. And after that, when also Joseph had seen in his dream that Herodes, he had seen the death of Herodes in his dream, so they decided to return again to Beit Lahm. So they reached from, they started to go to little bit to the south, Darnaka, and then they started to return again to Beit Lahm. So Wadi or Al-Muharraq or Deir Al-Muharraq may be the most important place that they passed here in Egypt, because they stayed more than 6 months.
But why they had many stops here in Egypt? Why they didn't stay in one place?
They can't stay in one place, because King Herodes sent his soldier behind them to kill as a child, because he knows that they already fly to Egypt. So he sent behind them, so they must change their place when the people will near that Jesus is here with the Virgin Mary, started to tell the other soldier of Roman soldier also, because in the same time when Jesus and the Holy Family passed in a place, one of the miracles that happened that all the statues were damaged. So they had enemies, so they will tell the soldier of King
How they were
Herodes.
damaged?
They broke.
That is
Cracked?
a miracle of Jesus.
It's a miracle.
See the
Just a
miracle.
yeah.
This is the appearance of
okay.
Jesus in front of the statue. It will be damaged. So when so they must change the place from a place to other, because they were afraid that sure that the soldier or of King Herod will know them.
Now I'd like to go back, retrieve where we stopped from before the Maharaq video. And the question I'd like to ask about is the miracle in Sakha. Would you tell us more about that?
Yeah, when they reached to Sakha after this Minit Samanud, they went to Delta. So they reached to Kafr al-Sheikh or Sakha exactly. In this place they had no food, they had no water. So Virgin Mary, she carried Jesus, and
We have it on air. This is parts from Sakha as well.
Yes, yeah. Exactly, because we have a famous church in Sakha. In this place, they had no water, so Virgin Mary carried Jesus, and they put him only in the base of a column, as a stool, and in the same place he fell down, and in the same place of the stool seems like a foothold or footstool. So the water growing out from this place like spring water, and then they used the water, and the people started to use the place because Jesus himself said this is the water will be like medication for everybody who will come to this place. And the people after that constructed the church in the same place of the footstool of Jesus, and it was a habit also to fill it with oil and to use this oil as a medical for any disease. So the place became a famous one, and also the father and the monk, they buried this foothold or footstool in a place beside the church, and when it was restored in 1984, they found this footstool.
Okay, sir, of course, we ran out of time. We only have 1 minute, and I need a kind of conclusion from you. The traveling of the Holy Family to Egypt is a kind of mercy to this country. How did the Egyptians receive this Holy Family?
The Egyptians received this trip in that time that they already helped them, Mary and Jesus, and protected them, and started to enter the Christian religion when they had seen all these things that Jesus made, and the Virgin and Mary and Joseph. So in the same place that they passed, they started to construct churches, especially in this area also of Wadi al-Natrun in al-Buhaira, Dir Makkar, Dir al-Amba Bishoy, Baramos, Suryan, and it became as a famous area. And also in all the Cairo, where they were hidden, also in Abu Sirga, became one of the famous and the holy places, and started to enter Christian religion from this period.
Well, indeed, we still need more actually to cover, because there are so many places which we haven't covered, but we need another episode, hopefully. I'd like to thank you very much. Thank you very much, historian and Egyptologist, Mr. Ahmed Noureddin, for this insightful interview. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, very much.
Thank you. And that brings us to the end of this episode of Breakfast Show. But first of all, I have to thank my colleague. Thank you very much, Leila.
Thank you, Rosha, very much. And to meet again soon. And until then, have all the best of luck.